Welcome, Damika. Again, thank you for being with us for 4 questions with COAACC.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So you are the Chief Economic Equity and Inclusion Officer for Franklin County, and I know you're relatively new in that position. Tell us about you and the position and the role of the position.
Sure. So I've been in this position since May 10th and charged with leading out our diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts inside of our organization. So how do we incorporate DEI in the fabric of our Board of Commissioner organization, and also to help support our economic equity goals and what we need to do to increase supplier diversity for the newly created Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for Franklin County Board of Commissioners. So a little bit about myself. I'm going on 21 years of public service work. Mainly, most of my years was spent doing direct services through Job and Family Services, where I'm determining eligibility for public benefits, and moved into a training program where I taught social decision-making, social skills, and anger management to 18 and 60-year-old males at Franklin County Community-Based Correctional Facility for 3 years who were trying to reintegrate into society. I went back to Franklin County Job and Family Services, and that's where I started really getting into the diversity, equity, and inclusion space, because the role there in our publicly funded childcare department was really to be innovative on how do we break down barriers in our systems to make it more equitable, especially for our communities of color, where intersectionalities lie, where you're dealing with women of color who have barriers that relates to transportation, access to resources. So creating change management process to be able to serve people better in a more of a humanistic role, and not so transactional, and really be transformational in what we were doing. So really was working through that racial equity lens as it related to change management and service delivery. I moved that over into our Franklin County Office on Aging here with our Board of Commissioners as an Assistant Director of Support Services, where my role really mainly was look for opportunities where equitable access needed to be improved, and not only to our benefits, but also with our community partners, because a lot of what happens at the Office on Aging is they have over 200 contracts where they are using for service delivery. So, and we also have the ability to make changes in our programs and policies and be more of a collaborative agency internally and externally. So led a lot of the racial equity work and service delivery and policy change there, and was then appointed on our Racial Equity Council after the commissioners declared racism as a public health crisis in May of 2020 and added racial equity as a core principle, really meaning recognizing that our racial disparities is the cusp of all of our issues as it relates to poverty, as it relates to economic growth and wealth, as it relates to all of the social determinants of health, like our transportation, our housing, all of the issues that are happening in our community. And so really the county administrator said, hey, we need a group of individuals that are going to come together, who understands our systems internally, who is about being DEI champions and want to learn more about how do we ingrain DEI internally and externally. So we had a group of 30 individuals on a racial equity council that created 11 internal recommendations to ingrain DEI in the fabric of our organization, which lended it to ourselves to work with our economic equity administrator, Marlise Ryan, where we created 4 economic equity goals to work in a supplier diversity space. And that's what we're doing. We're trying to implement those goals and recommendations now.
So you bring a lot of, and you use the word humanistic, but a lot of whole person experience, right?
Absolutely.
You've dealt with people at various places in their lives. And so as the officer, the head of your department, how will it look better? How will just having you in that chair improve upon inclusion and diversity efforts? I know your lens is a little different, right?
Yeah, really having the conversation of, who's not at the table. Everyone has to be dealt with in a holistic view. We cannot just say, here's this one issue, let's focus on that, because there's a myriad of issues that we don't see. We have to deal with those invisible things that make us different, those invisible diversities, because we bring our whole selves into our spaces that we come into. So how do we create more of an inclusive environment? And we have to do that on different levels, right? We have to do that with the leadership of our organization, who our county commissioners definitely support, making sure that our environments internally are also inclusive, but we're doing what we need to do externally to make sure that we're reaching into community partners who is able to move the needle in our economic growth. How do we close the gaps? How do we make sure that we are addressing the real problems in our disparate zip codes and poverty, and making sure that community partners are at the table that are able to do the work, that they have the capacity to do it. And we have the right partners in place. And it's not just always going to one individual. There are many people who are able to make sure to meet the needs of our community. So we have to be able to diversify what that looks like. So really just bringing a different vibe and a different attitude, a different mind frame on how we approach our day-to-day work, down to our contracts, down to the training that we're providing, down to the language that we are using, making sure that when individuals, Black businesses are doing any partnership and working with us as a county, they know for sure that we put racial equity, diversity, and inclusion at the forefront of everything that we are doing.
Okay. So speaking about contractors and Black-owned businesses, how do they intersect with you? How do they do business with Franklin County? Is there a certification process? Is there a registration process? What's the best way for Black-owned companies just to make you aware of them so that they have access to opportunities?
Absolutely. Make sure that you are connected through opportunities for our RFP processes when there are contracting opportunities that are available to do business with the county. Marlise Ryan leads our coffee and conversations, where she brings different opportunities to learn how to do business with the county. We just did one last fall, and really walking through what that looks like, what bid processing looks like, who do we need to be able to do different service delivery. And she works with our internal county agencies. So when they're looking to have contract and funding opportunities, they're able to reach into her and say, what are some small emerging businesses that are out there that can do the work in which that we are looking for. Part of our goals is to expand that collaboration, to expand that reach. So we're working with our purchasing department now to discuss some curriculum on a step-by-step guide. So we're not just having these conversations when an RFP is open, when a contract opportunity is open. We really want to get Black businesses prepared to do business with us. So how do we do that before that opportunity exists? Because a lot of times you're just trying to get that contract and that proposal in order. So how can we be proactive in the work that we are doing moving forward? So look out for that information. We'll definitely be sending that out to you as a community partner and ensuring that that is on our websites and our social media networks.
Okay. All right. My final question, which is easy, either the easiest question or the hardest question.
Okay.
So from your seat, from your lens, and it is, and I'm still just kind of amazed at how vast your experience is in terms of working with people at different spaces. So taking all of that into account and your position into account, what one tip would you give to Black-owned firms or companies on working with you, on partnering with you, on being better with you in 22 than they were in 21?
One tip, that might be the hardest question. I think reaching in, I think the pandemic as we all know, really peel back the onion of all of these different layers that our community was suffering, and Black businesses alone was one of those layers that has suffered and continues to suffer. Reach in. What I really want to do is hear from our Black businesses to talk about what are the needs. We have individuals that we're talking to have got great programming opportunities, great opportunities for some subcontracting, great opportunities that have ideals. There's entrepreneurs who are out here being creative, doing things in our community that we want to be able to reach in, fund those opportunities. We need to know about them. So a lot of times, Black businesses are afraid to maybe even reach in and say, maybe they think maybe they don't have the capacity or don't have what we're looking for. They might be looking for a certain thing. There's no one type of way you have to be. We want to know about what's out there. Maybe there's somebody that we can partner you with. Maybe there's an opportunity that we're not aware of and want to create some funding opportunities. The one thing is really communicating and working to collaborate with us, so you know how to do that business. Let us walk you through what that looks like, and if we can connect you with different resources. We work with Minority Business Assisted Access Center and the Columbus Urban League, partners like you, to be able to connect Black businesses together so they can increase their business and their wealth.
Perfect. Communicate, reach in. I like that. So thank you, Damika, for talking with us. And I want us to continue talking. I want to, continue this conversation. Hopefully one day we get to do it in person. How about that? That would be great. I would love that. Yes. Collaboration is key. We cannot do this alone. We have to be able to partner together and move forward together and have the right resources and partners at the table. So Franklin County is definitely on board to do that. Perfect.